Hey everyone, I'm here with Bill, who's flown all the way from San Francisco to be here with us today in Athens. And we recently helped him buy a house in the up-and-coming neighborhood of Kypseli. So I'd love for Bill to tell us a little bit more about your journey. How are you feeling right now?
I feel good. I got here a few days ago. I've been to the apartment and I feel really good. I have made a good decision. It's great being here, especially nice being here in the winter, because I usually have been to Athens and Greece only in the summertime. So it's all been pretty easy. I feel good.
Okay, so Bill, what made you decide to buy a home in Athens?
You know, I've been coming to Greece for several years now. I'm full Greek heritage, so I like coming back here. It feels like home. It feels very natural to be here. And a few years ago, after one trip, I started thinking about what it would be like to live here. Maybe just part-time for now, or maybe when I retire I'll be here longer. But I wanted to think about what it would be like to live here. And so I started thinking about buying a place. And then I was looking in different areas. And I realized I do like being in a city, so I wanted to be in Athens. And Athens, of course, anywhere else in Greece is very easy to get to from Athens. So I started thinking about it, and then I was like, I'm going to make it happen. So then my first step was to figure out how to get a taxpayer identification number. And that's when I did some Google searching, and I found your company. And we spoke a few times, and I liked you, and I trusted you, and I read all the reviews you had. So that was step one.
And how does the homes compare here versus in the US?
Oh, to buy?
To buy, yeah.
Much cheaper here, and you get more for your money. So I realized, even though I do fairly well in the United States, that it would be a better investment to buy an apartment here. And so I started looking around different neighborhoods, and I really like where I ended up, and I really like what I bought.
And how does the pricing compare?
So I grew up in New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, and I've lived in different cities. I lived in New York and LA, and I currently live in San Francisco. And most people know that the housing costs in the Bay Area are crazy expensive. So it would probably be $850,000 at least to buy something comparable in the Bay Area.
For how many square feet?
Well, there's the square meters, square footage. So I think I bought an 81 square meter apartment, but a comparable 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath with a living room, open living room, dining room, floor plan. It would just be 3 or 4 times as much.
So had you considered buying a home on your own before in Athens?
I don't think I could have bought a home here without assistance from a company like yours. There's no way. I mean, it just gets too complicated with the language barrier, with the different regulations, and with the different tax regulations. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult without some kind of professional help.
So tell us, Bill, what were some of the biggest fears that you had before embarking on this process, and how did we help you overcome those fears, or maybe some uncertainties or any sort of doubts when it comes to buying?
It's very daunting buying a house anywhere, but when you're going to a country where you don't speak the language and you don't know the rules and the tax codes, so that gets a little nerve-wracking. You also don't know, if you're trying to do it on your own, you don't know, am I going to get taken advantage of? Is somebody going to tell me something that's not true? So those are the kind of things you worry about, because it's an investment. So you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth, that you're not paying for things you don't need, that people aren't taking advantage of you by charging a lot of fees or exorbitant fees that if it were my own country, I would know that that's not right? So that's really the big part of it.
And how did we help you facilitate this process? If you could tell us a little bit more about how you worked alongside our professionals and how we made it easier.
Oh, well, you you have people you work with and that you referred me. So of course, I didn't know a realtor in Athens. You referred me to somebody who has been great. She's been very transparent. She speaks English, which helps a lot. And you also referred me to a real estate lawyer, which you need here to buy property. And he's been great. Antonis has been very helpful. He's been very transparent. He explains things very thoroughly. And Carly, the real estate agent, has been the same. You've all been very honest, very transparent. You've told me things to watch out for. So I could not imagine doing this by myself. One, trying to find a credible resource or somebody I can trust. And then two, having them be really honest and really straightforward about everything. So I wouldn't have been able to do it. Mm-hmm. Or it would have taken me, at least 2 or 3 times as long.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Could you give us a specific example of how, let's say, Carly helped you navigate a certain situation that was maybe complicated or difficult at the time?
Just explaining how things are done here. They're a little different. So between Carly, the agent, and Antonis, they really helped me navigate the situation with the seller, who did not want to sign the title without having all the money in his bank account, which in the United States we don't do. The money is placed in an escrow fund or an escrow account. So it is safely sort of in a no man's land, or a place where it's sitting there but no one owns it yet. So the seller is very old-fashioned. He's older, and he wanted all the money, cash, in his bank account before he would sign the title. Mm-hmm. And so Carly and Antonis advised me not to do that. And again, I don't think the seller was trying to do anything wrong. He's just very cautious and very old-fashioned. He doesn't do e-banking. So the three of us put our heads together, and we had a conference call, and we came up with a solution of putting the money in an escrow account through the realtor. And that satisfied the seller. And also it gave me some protection so I wouldn't lose money if something happened.
Right, understood. And can you tell us a little bit more about why you picked Athens specifically to buy a property compared to other islands maybe, or other places in Europe?
Oh yeah, Athens, I like big cities, and there was more housing stock here. There was more variety. And, I can come to Athens any time of year. People don't realize Athens in the winter is great. There's cultural activities, there's a lot to do. And if I want to go to an island or to the beach, I can just jump on a plane and be there within 50 minutes to an hour. Or I can jump on a ferry in the summer and go wherever I want to go. So it's very convenient. It's also just easier getting a non-stop flight from the United States to Athens, and then from here I can pick and choose where I want to go and how much time I want to spend.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there were a lot of lifestyle factors for you compared to in the United States being a bit more stressful and Athens being a bit more laid back.
Even though Athens is a big city, I think it's great. We're sitting on the top of a hill, and I can see the view of the whole town. And it's beautiful, and it's just not as stressful. I think the United States is getting very expensive. Politically, it's getting a little intense for me, which every country, has problems politically. But I think that Greece is in a good spot right now. I think the economy is getting healthier, and I think it's more affordable. I think it's less stressful. And it's just someplace I could see spending a lot of time over the long term.
I know that you bought the house sight unseen, which is something, very rare. How did we build that trust with you from the get-go? And also, were there any fears or doubts from doing something like that?
No, I think it's a practice becoming more common in the United States and outside. We have technology now. We have the internet. We have conference calls, and some of the apartments, it was funny. When I looked at all the listings, it was obvious that some of the sellers and realtors were trying to hide things about the apartment. But Carly and her associates were very good at really looking closely at the video and the photography and the pictures from the apartment. And she would say, oh, this one, looks like there might have been water damage in the corner. So it's really, I trusted her because she noticed things that I may not have noticed. Because when you're buying, you're very eager. So she was one that was helping me kind of slow down and really look at the situation. And then she or people from her office would go look, or they'd request more photos, or they would see if there's a video of the apartment available. So there were some that I liked that she was like, I don't know, because some of these pictures I can see that there might have been damage or it needs more work than it looks like on camera.
And how about with the overall responsiveness? How did we communicate with you, and were we overall responsive?
Oh yeah, if I emailed or I sent a message through WhatsApp, you all answer within a day, which, with the time change, that's normal, or that's to be expected. So really responsive. Any of my questions were answered. If I asked Carly a question that she didn't know, Antonis would know, or you would know. So everything about any question I had about whether, the utilities were expensive, whether, what bank was best to get an account, what neighborhoods were considered, up and coming or good neighborhoods. So I think between you and the people you work with, Antonis and Carly and others, like every question was answered pretty thoroughly too.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how we helped you obtain the Greek tax ID? Because I know that's really important in terms of buying property and getting everything organized and arranged here in terms of paperwork. So
Oh yeah, that's step number one. You have to have a taxpayer ID in Greece before you can do anything. So that was a little bit of a challenge. So I'm glad that we talked about it. And you made that really easy, you and the lawyer you work with. So I had to send you a little bit of information, and then you prepared all the paperwork. And I never would have been able to get that done on my own, even with family members who speak Greek, because they couldn't really understand like formal legal Greek. So you made that easy. All I had to do is when you sent the paperwork, I had to get some things notarized. Then I had to take the paperwork to the consulate in San Francisco. And that was a 10-minute thing. I just go over there, they stamped it, I signed it, I paid them a little money. And that was the hardest part about that was I had a very cranky gentleman at the consulate who was not really that friendly, but some woman came and helped me, and she was delightful. So yeah, you made that very easy. It was not hard at all.
And do you plan to move here in the future?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm still working, and I'm not a digital nomad. I can't work with my job from Athens, but I would like to spend more time here for a vacation, and then when I'm able to retire, I can spend up to 90 days, and then we'll see about getting residency, and maybe I'll spend more time. Maybe permanent, who knows? But it would be lovely to be here permanently.
Yeah. Given your Greek heritage, would you be looking to obtain your Greek citizenship?
Yes, I would like to get it. We'll see. I don't know. Of course, I'll need your help in getting that because it may take a while. But yeah, I would like to.
Okay, so I'm curious, what is it like being in a neighborhood like Kypseli?
It's a very dense, very urban neighborhood. It's very mixed, which I love. A lot of different people, and it seems to be on the up and up. When I was walking around, there were a lot of pop-up shops, restaurants, so it was really fun. There's a lot of energy there. It's very vibrant, which I love.
And is it relatively close to a metro station? Did you find it easy getting around?
So there's a metro station being built, which is great. I thought it was just in the planning stages, but they're actually building it, and that'll be about a 5 to 7 minute walk from my apartment.
Perfect.
But even that, it was only a very quick, inexpensive cab ride from Syntagma. And then the way home yesterday, I walked to the Ios Nicholas. I'm not
Ios
pronouncing
Nikolaos.
it, probably. That's a metro station, and that was only about a 12-minute walk. So that was fun. But yeah, it's pretty convenient. I mean, it's just a couple miles or maybe 3 kilometers north of Syntagma. So it's not a heavily touristed neighborhood, but it is a fun, up-and-coming neighborhood. I really like it.
And you have supermarkets around and
Yeah, there's
shops.
everything around. There's little stores, there's tavernas, there's pop-up shops, there's the Kypseli municipal market, which has just been redone. So yeah, there's a lot there.
So what would you say to somebody who is on the fence about buying property in Greece, especially if they want to do it sight unseen?
I would tell them, if you know you want to come to Greece, it's not a hard process to buy property without seeing it. Like I said, there are videos, there are photographs of the apartments on different real estate websites, but you have resources. You have Chloe, you have Carly, people like Antonis who can help you. So it's not hard. You have to, use good judgment and ask questions. Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know. And then you have to have a little bit of trust, right? You have to take a little bit of a leap of faith, but I did that and it worked out really well. I would definitely do the same thing again. I would work with your company. I would work with Carly and Antonis. Everything has been really great. I don't have any complaints. Yeah, so I would recommend, if you just want information about coming here, you could contact Chloe through her website and her company. She'll be happy to answer questions like she did for me. Yeah, the first call with Chloe is a 15-minute intake call or discovery call, and that's no charge. So you really have nothing to lose.
Okay guys, well thank you so much for watching that video. Again, if you have any questions, just put it down in the comment section. And now we're gonna have Carly explain to you exactly what she can do to help you if you're looking to buy property here, and also how we work alongside each other.
Today I'm in beautiful Athens. I mean, I love Athens. I've loved everything about Athens. But what brought me for this video today is because we helped a gentleman by the name of Bill. Bill is from San Francisco. For this particular purchase, his constraints were that he had 200,000 euros. He didn't know what area in Athens. He just knew that he wanted an apartment in Athens with a high floor and good building management. He had to buy it sight unseen. That was, trying to find different ways on how to navigate that big choice of his life. And as well as he didn't have a bank account, which didn't seem like a big problem at the time, but actually when it was coming to closing, it became a huge problem. So we had to service a lot of power of attorneys for the purchase of the property, also the transfer of funds from the American account to the Greek account. Those were his main goals and constraints with having to buy this property. So what are the biggest mistakes that foreigners make when they're trying to buy real estate in Greece? It's that they think that it's the same as that of Canada, US, UK, or pretty much anywhere else in the world. The truth of the matter is that the real estate industry here in Greece is not regulated. There's no formal education. There's no board of ethics or anything like that. So it does make the industry really fragmented. Majority of agents are listing agents, so they take on listings. I myself in my division, which is a buyer's agency division, we do not take any listings. We only represent the buyers or people renting long-term real estate in Greece. So how does that benefit you? It benefits you because you have somebody looking out for your best interests. If you represent yourself, you think that you're going to be saving money, but in the long run, you're actually going to be costing yourself more money for a couple of reasons. One, you actually owe the listing agent commission regardless, so you're not being represented on your best interest. Two, you don't have somebody looking out for your best interests and, asking the right questions. They're representing the owner. And so how are they supposed to give the owner the most money and then you as the buyer the least amount of money? It's a conflict of interest. So that's one big mistake. Another thing is that there's no centralized MLS or listing system, so the market is very fragmented and not properly regulated. So that leads for a lot of miscommunication with paperwork. The system isn't kind of cut and dry. Whereas, if you have to look at the paperwork to make sure that everything is like sound and proof, there's no liens, debts or anything, which normally isn't so difficult in BC or Canada for that matter. But in Greece, you have to do a lot of research with lawyers, also get engineers to inspect the property to make sure there's no illegal builds. all these things can delay the process. That's why we screen everything prior to going into the deposit stage. So we make sure that the paperwork is as clean as possible, that the engineering reports are as good as possible. So essentially we're behind you 100% of the time to ensure that you're not wasting your time, your money, your energy, and then as stressless as possible. So what part of the buying or renting real estate in Greece is the most frustrating for a lot of my clients? There's a lot of different things. I mean, there's lack of transparency is huge. The lack of, paperwork being in one consistent matter. Every property has a different story, so like that accounts for delays. There's so many issues that get tied to these properties. Nothing's ever like clean and cut dry. It's kind of a wild west when you're dealing with real estate here in Greece. And so that's one thing. The language barrier is huge. I mean, a lot of people do speak a little bit of English, but it's not to the ability to communicate on an easy level. That's why I use my admin staff to help me communicate and ask all the right questions, to get all the right answers so that we're completely informed about everything along the process. Another huge thing is being able to get reliable professionals like lawyers, notaries, engineers to be on your side. A lot of people say that they're going to do things and then they take the payment and then they actually don't do what they're supposed to. So we have a lot of reliable professionals under our belt that you guys can use, and it actually ends up saving money in the long run, time, frustration, and stress. Another thing that is often frustrating is the responsiveness from other agents. I mean, they don't respond like we're used to in the North American business model, so we make it a point to always be on top of the professionals, on top of the agents, to make sure that everything's done in a timely manner. So what made this $200,000 budget a good option for Bill? Like I told you, he didn't know which area of Athens he wanted to be in, but he heard of Kypseli, he heard of different neighborhoods that he wanted to check out. So when we first started our list, we were at 45, I believe, different listings all throughout Athens. We did a lot of research, we talked to a lot of collaborating partners to see what was a good value for the money in a really kind of lively up and coming area. And after a lot of research, it brought us to Kypseli. Kypseli was a really, really popular area in the 1920s up to the 1960s. It's kind of like this Art Deco kind of funky feel to it, and it's being revived. I'm not only just working on Bill's property right now, I'm actually searching for 2 other apartments in Kypseli area at the current moment, because it's something that people are really drawn towards because it's very trendy, it's really up and coming, it's a cute little neighborhood, and it's also getting the metro access, I believe, in this year as well. So it also is going to be able to be connected to the central of Athens a lot easier. So it's great to get into these pocket neighborhoods before all this stuff happens, because the value will increase and the whole neighborhood's going to transform. So he really thought it was important for him to get into this before this transformation, so that it would give him potential for later on, and when he retires, to enjoy a really hip kind of young area in his retirement years. And this was really important to him. One thing that was really important with Bill is that he was doing this sight unseen. So imagine buying a place in Athens for $200,000 or less and not being able to physically see it. So what did we have to do? I was thinking in the back of my head, okay, we get an inspection. In Greece, inspections are not as common. So I had a collaborating partner, go through the property with a fine-tooth comb. She looked at the floor condition, the wall condition. She looked at the air conditionings, the water systems, everything as best she could. She took pictures and videos of the property prior to us putting down the deposit to ensure that it was a good buy, from a perspective of, a person walking into the property. So that's one thing we did. We also did the engineering inspection to understand the soundness of the building and everything. We really looked into the building maintenance and the people that are actually living in the building to make sure that the building's property maintained, that they have, a reserve fund in case of any major damages or anything, that, the people that were in the building were, of good sound and good people. And so I'm happy to report that this particular property is really well maintained. They have an excellent building manager. They have a contingency fund. The building itself is in excellent condition, and it's in a huge upcoming area. We negotiated $10,000 below the listing price as well, and we also utilized our professionals to make sure that this process went down as smoothly and as beautifully as possible. But what we didn't realize is that at the final end, the selling of the transfer of the ownership, the owner decided, I don't trust taking American funds from an American account from abroad. So we were stuck in a hard place. So we had to put our thinking caps on, and it brought the mindset of Canada, where we put, funds into a brokerage's escrow account in order to hold the funds to issue that to the owner. After talking to a lot of lawyers and professionals and everything, we found that that was an option available to us that we could never has been done within my brokerage. So we had to get another power of attorney to handle the funds through my office. And thank God this worked because the deal almost didn't go through. So, you know, having a reliable real estate agent that kind of thinks on their toes is super important for navigating this market. So another misconception is that you can think that you're going to save money by searching real estate on your own, and that's actually not going to be the case. The owner usually typically gives commissions to the listing agents, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they put that on the buyer side. In Greece, you know, the owner pays the listing agent, the buyer or the renter pays the buyer's agent. But this is not well regulated. So there's no one set way, one set commission, one set structure, one set nothing. So it's kind of like the wild, wild west where everybody just goes by their own rules. That's why with our brokerage and our division, which is the buyer's agency, we make sure that it's full transparency from the beginning. We tell you the pitfalls, what to expect, what could happen, because this real estate market changes within different areas, different districts, everything. What happens in Thessaloniki is different than Athens. What happens in Athens is different than Kavala. I mean, I work all of real estate within Greece, and every area, every region comes with its own set of rules, but it's always important to find an agent that's looking out for your best interest and only your best interest. And that's what we're doing here with the division here, is making sure that you are taken care of from the beginning and then to the end, and even past the keys. Even with Bill, you know, the case is done, the file is done. But what are we still doing? We're negotiating renting his parking space. We're still helping him with renovations and, you know, painting and maintenance and everything. So when you're working with us, it's not, I'm just helping you buy or rent a property. We're literally holding your hand throughout the whole process. With Bill, we did 2 power of attorneys. We did, you know, the transfer of funds through the brokerage account. We helped with leasing his parking space. We've helped with renovations, inspections. I mean, hooking up the power, hooking up the water. I mean, that's not always all the case with everyone, but that language barrier, that is the biggest pitfall for a lot of my clients, is that they can't understand or communicate what they want. And unfortunately, the bureaucracy and the systems here in Greece are chaotic. There's not one way, and it often leads to delays. So that's why having somebody like us behind you is gonna really help save you money, time, and stress. So if you're thinking about buying real estate or renting in Greece, give us a call. We'll make sure we got you covered.